Good morning. I know other people will be coming in once we've started. It's another quiet, reflective day at Grace Church Cathedral. Lots going on. I'm grateful that others can watch this online, which is good. And we have an opportunity just to bring you up to date. A number of things are going on, especially in this last year. It's been a real effort to communicate with people about what's been going on. It really has been a tip of the iceberg year. There's so many things underneath and things we've been working on, but we haven't had the opportunity to talk together about those developments. And so today, just to go through a number of them, get a sense of what's been happening, and you may have questions as well. We have opportunity if you're in the cathedral for some questions for sure. Maybe just first of all, quickly, if Caleb, you just give that update about the election yesterday. You are the president of the Standing Committee. Just say a word about that.
Well, after over 8 years without a full-time diocesan bishop, yesterday at a special convention hosted virtually here at Grace Church Cathedral, the Diocese of South Carolina elected the Reverend Canon Ruth Woodliff Stanley to become the 15th bishop of the diocese. We are very excited about our future, and we are excited that Bishop-elect Woodliff Stanley will be joining us soon. At the same time, we are sad for the 4 candidates that did not get elected, especially our beloved Callie. I believe that I speak for all of us when I say that we are unbelievably proud of her and her faithfulness to this whole process. I said to her yesterday, using her own language about being a pilgrim, that the pilgrim road continues, and I am grateful. We are grateful to be walking it with her. So here's to the journey, and as the dean always reminds us, onward and upward. We love you, Cal.
Yay.
And as it has been for the last year and a half, we continue with the excellent leadership of Callie as we transition to a full-time diocesan bishop. And now that the election has occurred, we will move into a period of getting consents from all the bishops and standing committees of the Episcopal Church. And that has to occur before the bishop-elect can be consecrated on October 2nd. So this summer will be more transition as we expect our new bishop to begin work here in mid to late summer. Thank you.
May I just say thank you, Grace Church Cathedral, for being you. There's really no better place to serve in Christ Church than here among you. So thank you for being you, and also for your role in helping to create in me the priest that I am still in the process of becoming. So thank you. I've thought about a lot of things, but I've been serving the diocese for a long time now, and when I've noticed when I've described the work, the ministry, I describe myself as an old mule plowing a field. And that's in large part what it is and has been over many years. And so I think about William Pichet Dubose, who said he was up for bishop in South Carolina in the 19th century, and he said later in life that not being elected bishop of the Diocese of South Carolina was the greatest blessing of his life.
How do you top that?
And of course, it was then, after that, he then went to Sewanee and spent the rest of his life and career and wrote 6 or 7 really important books of theology, and also founded the theology department at the University of the South, which would become the School of Theology. And so, you know, the Lord is in this, and the Lord, I think, has seen fit to spare me. The image that I woke up with this morning was this one. You remember the story of Brer Rabbit and the Briar Patch? Of course, the Briar Patch being the very place where Brer Rabbit, or Bo Rabbit, as we say in the Low Country, where Brer Rabbit could flourish, he could run free, and do whatever he needed to do. And so we have a dean who encourages all of us to stretch ourselves in order that we might run free, knowing ourselves forgiven, loved, and freed to do the ministry of the gospel. So thank you so much for being you.
Thank you. I think the word transition is appropriate. This last year has been a transition. If I speak honestly about the last 15 years, it's simply been a series of transitions. And in some ways, that's the blessing, is that it does keep us moving. We are a pilgrim people, and we've really not had a lot of time to spend in one place. So let's keep on moving. You'll notice over the last while, and in the newsletter, Elsa told the story so well, we've had some developments around the office. And we don't want you to come to the office and realize no one's there. So I've asked one of our wardens, Barry Gum, to come and just tell that story for people.
So I think most of y'all may have already read about it in Words of Grace, that Elsa wrote it better than I can say. But as you know, the scaffolding now has been up for a couple years. And at the time we put that up, we knew we had a problem, and we were hoping to be able to have a new building to resolve that problem before it became worse. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And we got to the point where the sooner we get the staff out of there, the better. It is really unsafe and unhealthy for them to be in there. Sue Cromwell, actually, if you walked by there, purchased a hand on the internet that sticks out the wall to say hello, of her office, to say hello to anybody that might pass by and want to see it, which is okay except when it's raining. And so we looked at everything we could find, and we could not figure out a place to move them. We were having a Zoom call when the last alternative was being discussed, and that was to fix it, which Hightower Construction told us would probably be $250,000 to $300,000 in 6 months out of there, which obviously didn't solve anything when we'd already been told it probably wasn't worth fixing anyway. On that same Zoom call, I was messing around on the internet, as you can do, you know, and sneak around while you're talking on the Zoom, and I found this listing for this little house at 5 Cumming Street, which is about 100 feet from the entrance to the parking lot, to 115. Make a long story short, the church has purchased that as of last week, and as soon as possible, we will get the staff moving in there. But like everything else, we have to get the internet hooked up. That'll take a while, because it seems like everything you ask anybody to do these days, the time is 6 to 8 weeks, no matter what it is. But we will probably get done before that. And I think it'll work out good for the staff. I know it will work out good for the staff. And Lauren Sanchez has helped us, Simmons Young helped us get approved. I won't go into that. But then Lauren's helping us to make best use of the space. And so in the long run, at the end of the time period when we need it, and we move everybody back over here in the building that we can't see just yet, but hope to soon, we will either keep it for a rectory, which we don't have, or sell it, one of the two. So I think it'll solve our problem in the short run. Thank you. And again, just to say a big thank you
thank you to a whole bunch of people who've been working behind the scenes. You haven't seen them, but they made this possible so quickly. You think, well, how do we afford it? Well, there was a planned gift that covered most of the down payment. And so instead of putting money out every month, renting an inadequate space, we're actually going to be building equity and, as Barry said, a possibility of selling the house down the road. And that leads us to the next piece. A lot of work has been done on transforming Grace, the buildings, the renewal of the old building halls and the building of the new. And what I want to remind people about, our goal for transforming Grace is going to be in the area, the capital campaign will be around $10 million. So we can just kind of stop the conversation now. If you'd like to write that check, any of you right now, we can just, forget about any more. But here's the story. If I went to churches all across this country, downtown city churches, and said, for $10 million, you raise that, I will give you a vibrant congregation with all the programs, mission, and outreach. $10 million, you've got this incredible congregation. Churches would empty their funds. They'd say, yes, we want that. Our problem is much easier. We have the vibrant congregation. We're growing in so many different ways. Our ministries are expanding. Our only problem is we need a way to house and to support these programs because we still have the facility that accommodated a much smaller congregation. If you want to look at space, talk to the Acolytes and the Altar Guild. The Acolytes vest in a closet, all 70 of them, or the Altar Guild. I mean, I've talked to the Altar Guild. They have to leave that space just to change their mind. I mean, it is really, really small. So our problem is not the heavy lifting. We got this vibrant place, but we are going to be in risk of lessening the growth and shrinking because we just cannot accommodate. And so maybe just ask Susie Carter to come forward, our senior warden, just to talk about where are we in the campaign and the work that's been done to get us moving. And again, we have good news and bad news. The good news is we have enough. We have $10 million. We can do it. Bad news, it's still in your pockets. So we're gonna talk about that.
First off, thanks to Michael and the clergy for their vision, for all of you all for being here and creating the reason we need to raise $10 million to renovate that building and build that one. Simmons Young and Lauren Sanchez, our own parishioners, have done a fabulous job of listening to all of you to learn what we need in the new building. How can we support the ministries, the outreach, the hospitality, the education, the worship that goes on here. We have been through all the approvals. The BAR is on board. We even got permission to take down that tree over the dumpster, which was interesting. But Simmons and Lauren, because they are of us, really get it. And their designs, if you'll go in the Hanahan Hall, there's a balsa wood, I guess, model of the campus, and then descriptions of what's what. We are currently, thanks to Elsa and Simmons and Lauren, working on materials that will be ready in the coming month or so for each of you to be able to take home and hold and read, and it will describe what we need the money for in pretty good detail, so you'll have a real understanding of where we are. We thank you. Does anybody have a question I can answer? Anything specific? The question is, what will we do with 115? We are under discussion what to do with that. I suspect the smartest thing to do will be to raise it because it's expensive. The scaffolding is expensive. It's very expensive to insure an empty building, and it's dangerous building, so to use for parking. That would be the short answer. But we're open. Thank you all very much. Thank you in advance for all of the $10 million we're going to raise.
Thank you, Susie. Well said. Thanks for that question. I think, again, if it's mentionable, it's manageable. You're going to have questions that we may not answer at this gathering, but then you will give them to us in vestry and wardens, and we will get back to you. We just want to get you caught up to where we are. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have to sell that corner because, I mean, there are miracles, and then there are super miracles. The super miracles are parking. Parking. I mean, manna from heaven is good, but a parking place is awesome. We know that. We can have increased parking there, any parking that we're going to lose around the building. I mean, so in a perfect world. But to get to 10 million, do the math, we might have to. And people are going to say, well, I've got to raise this money. What would I give to it? I'm going to probably sound like a broken record. This is a major initiative of this generation for this place. And all I would ask people to do is to consider. I know how much people love this place. I would ask you to consider that this might be the most generous gift you've ever given in your lifetime. And I say that because people say to me how much they love this place. So what do I give? What have I given before? I would ask you to consider, could this be the time you make your greatest gift? Reflecting on what this place means. And again, we're not asking for dollars that are going to fix something. Believe me, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. When we raised this money before, over $12 million, so that everything would look exactly the same, that's a challenge. This money is going to give us, by the way, what you as a congregation 20 years ago said Grace needed. At half of its size, you said, we need more space. Now we're going, we finally, after all the repairs, can do the creative piece. And so for me, I'm just thrilled and excited that we have this opportunity. I really don't mean it lightly. The small problem is the money issue. There are so many other issues I'm so glad that's the struggle we have. Because guess what you've done before? And guess what you'll do again? You've done what was necessary financially. So thank you for that, and let's make sure we continue to ask each other the questions that you must still have about the program. Another shout out to Lauren and Simmons. It's wonderful to have people who know what it is. If I can just relate, at one meeting when we were trying to get approval for the building, and at the meeting somebody complained about the design around the handicap entrance near the front. And Simmons goes, this is Grace. Our handicap don't go in the back door. They come in the front door. We think it looks just lovely the way you've accommodated. So that's just one sign. Other updates. We've been in a search for our new director of music, a new canon organist. We are almost to the finish line there. We've had our finalist visit. Again, any of them would be wonderful. We hope to have that announcement soon so that by the new season, we'll be up and running, and the music, which I know is important to all of us, will continue to be at the center of parish life. And so, announcement expected in the next week or two, so that we're moving forward with that. Caleb, from the Standing Committee, anything people are asking about the legal situation? That's more diocesan, so I'll defer to Caleb.
I've got the Chancellor looking at me, so I'll be brief and hopefully correct. But the basic gist, correct? Good. The basic gist is that we are waiting. Last summer's lower court ruling from Judge Edgar Dixon is attempting to overturn the Supreme Court decision of 2017. And remember that South Carolina Supreme Court decision return 29 parish properties and all diocesan property, including Camp St. Christopher, back to us. And last summer's ruling from the lower court was unprecedented in that it is trying to overrule a higher court's decision. And it is complicated, of course, but I believe that all the briefs have been filed and the South Carolina Supreme Court has the case, and that case is pending. And the South Carolina Supreme Court can either have a hearing or simply make a decision. And here ends the report of the legal issues.
What about the federal appeal?
The federal appeal,
Chancellor?
I'll let you say it. The federal appeals are simply stayed until the Supreme Court decides what is before them, and they will follow our Supreme Court.
the federal appeal is stayed until the South Carolina Supreme Court rules. Thank you.
Caleb said, waiting. You know, I'm getting sick and tired of living in Advent. Whether it's the pandemic, I think this year we're going to have Thanksgiving, we're going to have Christ the King, and we're going to start singing Christmas carols December the 1st, okay? If I have Advent anymore, you know, people look east, look, I'm turning around and looking in the opposite direction. So if you want to work with me on that, we can have, we'll invent a new season, but let's be done with Advent. Thank you. Transitioning. What we've been doing here for the last, how many months? Pandemic began, again, what language I didn't like hearing across the church was the churches are closed. No, the church is closed for public worship at the beginning. We were open every day from the beginning, and we began with simply the clergy walking around the church every day, Stations of the Cross. We did that for I don't know how many months. When we started considering opening, we opened simply the church. The church building was always open. You could come and get communion one by one. Then when we opened the church for services, public, we started this daily Eucharist, which continues to be, I have to tell you, it's a gift of the last year. 10, 15, 20, 25 people every day at noon. This parish has a thriving daily Eucharist now because it was a safe way for people to communicate over in a small way and get numbers over time. And then as we moved into really the fall season, returning Sunday morning and having 5 services on Sunday. And then having baptisms Tuesday afternoon, Thursday evening. I mean, we've had baptism. They haven't stopped. We've just had to be creative in how they're being done. And the clergy, the staff, everybody has cooperated. Our de facto answer is yes. It may be different, but we will make it happen. And what I would just say is that's been a very creative time. We've learned a lot. Our daily Eucharist, even though Sunday's now open, continues to thrive. Evensong came back on a regular basis. And so by the time we got open and you see all the roping off of the pews, I think that's where we are now. People are saying, well, what's going to happen next? Well, my guess is the order would be greater capacity with masks, not less capacity without masks, if that makes sense. So, and people may say, well, I don't need to wear a mask. We understand that. We're doing it for one another. It's solidarity. You know, we could have armbands as well if that helped. This is an act of solidarity. We're doing all this together. So we haven't made any of those decisions. You've seen we have a somewhat modified coffee hour. People really did want to get together. And again, a lot of people who are vaccinated, meeting with other people who are. Fellowship, boy, people have just been starved. So we're doing it incrementally. I mean, we're a little bit at a time, making sure we listen to what people are saying. But we want to hear from you what works, what doesn't work, what would be better. All we know is we're trying to make this community work with some modifications to our regular routine. But I think we're looking forward to the midsummer fall season where maybe we can do some more movement. But for now, this is what it is. And if you've got any questions about that, I'd be happy to address them. Yes?
Was there any conversation about the
It's a very difficult one at this point. So we're certainly talking about it, but there's no decision on that because, again, what we want to make sure we don't do, this has gone really well, and it's been super safe. So we want to make sure we don't lose what we have now, but if we lessen some rules and then there's a problem, then we know what that does. That takes us back to a very dark place. So we're going to be really careful. But yeah, it's in our conversation, and if there are creative ways to look at that, then we'll look at that, and we're certainly consulting. Just like the little school has worked well with all of their bubbles. But that's one of the things, just like what do we do around seating capacity.
Sorry, I have one more question. So, for those of us who didn't have one of those private baptisms during all of this, is there some way that we could have some sort of public celebration during a Sunday service of all the babies that were baptized privately? Because for some of us, the presentation to the church is a very large part of that baptism.
Well, that's true, but here's a great example. When some of our most recent baptisms, people were present in church, and the baptism followed afterwards because of numbers and guests and whatever. So you remember what we used to do, and I want to return to it, every Father's Day, we have the blessing of the babies. We may not be able to do it that early, but I think that would be the kind of opportunity where when we have baptisms in a different context, we would have recognition of those who've been baptized as the liturgies allow. So definitely. And of course, we just started some public baptisms recently around numbers because we knew we could accommodate them. I think it was a couple of Sundays ago at 9 o'clock. And we have public baptisms scheduled in June as well. Any other questions? Maybe I should just do a little test here. Show of hands, how many are vaccinated? You see, that should tell us something about churches being open or not. Thank you. Gotta go through my list. Oh, just maybe an indication that things are going on. We have with us today Bishop Neil Alexander. And what have we been doing the last while? Well, just talk to Caleb about confirmation class and Lester Pittman about confirmation class. Bishop Alexander is here this afternoon because we're going to have a confirmation service. We couldn't do it here in the morning because it would be overflowing. 48 people to be confirmed, reaffirmed, or received. So thanks to Bishop Alexander for coming and making this special part of our life. We've missed this, and this is so important for our families, and for him to come back and do this. As you remember, he did this in September, and again, if it's done more than twice for Episcopalians, it is a tradition. So he doesn't really have it. He can't say no now. Better watch that. So that should give us a little bit of sense. I want to end with that simply because we talked about the new building and all the stuff that we've got to do in the program so that this vibrant community can continue to be nurtured and sustained, that the outreach that we can do will have more capacity to do that. The gathering and the fellowship can happen. We have what is most important. Let's work to support that in any possible way. With that, I'll end this conversation and say thank you for your time, and I think there's something going on at 11 o'clock. Is that right? Peace.